02:47 hours, Baltic time. A sudden alert cuts through the silence of the night. Inside the U.S. forward base, radar operators see 12 red lines appear on their screens, moving fast, closing in. Within seconds, alarms scream across the base. Soldiers rush to defense stations. The air fills with tension, heartbeats racing against the ticking clock. Those 12 red lines are Russian missiles, inbound, lethal, unstoppable. But what happened next? No one in Moscow expected. Before we reveal the U.S. retaliation that changed everything, like this video, subscribe, and press the bell icon to stay updated with real stories of power, precision, and courage in modern warfare. In early 2025, global tensions were rising faster than ever. The United States and Russia had entered a new phase of military rivalry, one marked not by open war, but by constant tests of strength. Each side watched the other through satellites, spy planes, and digital eyes. The peace that once seemed stable now felt like a fragile thread, ready to snap at any moment. The warning signs began weeks before the missiles were launched. Russia had been conducting defensive drills near the Baltic and Arctic regions. Their naval fleet moved closer to NATO waters. Intelligence analysts in Washington noticed strange radio signals and encrypted data bursts from Russian bases near Kaliningrad. It looked routine at first, until it didn't. By February 2025, reports showed Russian missile carriers had repositioned in the Barents Sea. Satellite imagery revealed increased movement of Iskander and Kalibr systems along the western border. These weren't just training exercises anymore. The pattern was strategic. The message was clear. Russia was testing how far it could go. The United States responded quietly but firmly. A forward operating base, codenamed Falcon Point, was established in Eastern Europe to support NATO's quick reaction forces. Falcon Point wasn't large, but it was powerful. It housed advanced radar systems, Patriot missile batteries, and over 400 personnel, including pilots, engineers, and cyber defense teams. Its mission was simple: monitor and respond to any hostile movement in the region. Inside the Pentagon, concern was growing. Satellite intelligence suggested Russia was planning a demonstration strike, not to destroy, but to intimidate. The National Security Council warned that even a small-scale missile attack could trigger a dangerous chain of escalation. Still, most believed Russia wouldn't take that risk. They were wrong. On the night of April 11, 2025, Falcon Point was running a routine systems check. The skies were quiet, the air still. Commanders reviewed data from the radar towers, unaware that hundreds of miles away, 12 missile launchers were locking onto their coordinates. The Russian plan, later confirmed by intelligence reports, was to send a message, a precision strike designed to disable the radar and test U.S. defense speed. The order came directly from a regional command center outside St. Petersburg. 12 missiles armed with conventional warheads were launched. Their flight path was designed to confuse early warning systems by blending with civilian air corridors for the first few seconds of travel. In Washington, NORAD's monitoring systems picked up the launch within 30 seconds. At first, it looked like a false alarm. Then, one after another, the missile tracks appeared, 12 bright signatures streaking toward the U.S. base. Within 2 minutes, the Pentagon and NATO command were on high alert. Falcon Point's defense commander, Colonel Ethan Reeves, had less than 5 minutes to act. His voice, calm but firm, echoed across the comms network. "Activate intercept systems. Code red. This is not a drill." As the base went into lockdown, soldiers took their positions. Pilots scrambled to secure aircraft. Engineers rushed to shield power systems. Every move followed strict protocol, trained for but never tested in real battle. Around the world, intelligence agencies began connecting the dots. A sudden drop in Russian air traffic, encrypted military signals pulsing between coastal radar posts. The signs all pointed to one fact: this was a deliberate strike. Meanwhile, inside the Kremlin, Russian military analysts monitored radar reflections and impact predictions. The mission was meant to last under 10 minutes. Moscow expected limited damage and strong political leverage, but they underestimated the U.S. defense network and the speed of its retaliation. For the men and women inside Falcon Point, those minutes felt like hours. Every radar pulse, Every radio call carried the weight of what could become the start of a global conflict. No one could predict the outcome. But one thing was certain. History was about to be written not in days or weeks, but in seconds. And when the first missile crossed the defense perimeter, the world held its breath. 2:47 hours. Falcon Point Base, Eastern Europe. The radar screen glowed red. 12 incoming signatures were confirmed. The first report came from the Northern Observation Post. Multiple launches detected, bearing 062 degrees, speed Mach 3 and rising. The base sirens erupted seconds later. Soldiers rushed to their stations, boots striking metal floors in perfect rhythm with the alarms. Colonel Ethan Reeves stood in the command center, headset on, voice steady. "All batteries, engage on my mark." His calm tone masked the storm inside him. The next few minutes would decide the fate of hundreds, maybe thousands, of lives. At 02:49, the first missile entered the base's detection range. It was flying low, hugging the terrain to avoid radar lock. The Aegis radar system recalibrated, tracking each target in real time. Operators called out impact predictions. Missile 1, ETA 3 minutes, Missile 2, 3 minutes, 15 seconds. Outside, the night sky was silent but tense. Then came the faint thunder of engines. Interceptor missiles launching from the Patriot battery site. 3 bright trails shot upward, cutting through darkness. Within seconds, radar confirmed 3 successful intercepts. 9 missiles remained. Each second felt like an eternity. The command room buzzed with short, controlled shouts. "Reacquire targets! Adjust trajectory!" Another barrage of interceptors lifted off. 2 more Russian missiles exploded mid-air, their debris scattering harmlessly over open ground. But one missile broke through. At 02:52, a shockwave ripped across the base perimeter. It struck a fuel storage unit just outside the airfield, igniting a massive fireball that lit up the sky. The ground trembled, windows shattered, and alarms grew even louder. Colonel Reeves steadied himself, eyes fixed on the screen. "Fire response to Sector Delta. Maintain intercept protocol. We're not done." At 02:53, the 6th and 7th Russian missiles were taken down by automated defense drones operating in tandem with radar-guided systems. These drones, small but deadly accurate, were the newest addition to the U.S. defense grid. Their real-time tracking allowed microsecond corrections, making interception almost guaranteed. The 8th missile was the most dangerous. Its speed exceeded Mach 5, likely a modified Zircon variant. It slipped past initial tracking for a brief moment, then reappeared, heading straight for the communications hub. Reeves ordered an emergency countermeasure, a decoy signal to redirect the missile's infrared seeker. It worked. The missile veered off course, detonating harmlessly in open fields 2 miles away. By 02:55, the final 4 missiles were intercepted over the coastline by a nearby U.S. Navy destroyer, the USS Arleigh Burke, operating under NATO command. Its Aegis combat system locked on and neutralized all 4 targets before they could cross into friendly airspace. Within 8 minutes, the attack was over. The base was damaged, but still operational. Fire crews battled the blaze at the fuel depot while medics treated minor injuries caused by the explosion's shockwave. No lives were lost. At 03:02, Falcon Point sent a coded message to the Pentagon. "Attack repelled. Defense systems operational. Awaiting orders." That message reached Washington within seconds. In the Pentagon's Situation Room, military advisors and analysts stared at live satellite feeds. 12 missiles launched, 11 destroyed mid-air, 1 hit perimeter targets. The data spoke volumes. The defense network had held. But President David Cooper's next order changed everything. At 03:10, under Article 5 of NATO Readiness Protocol, a coordinated cyber defense and air reconnaissance operation was authorized. The goal: trace the missile launch origins and prepare a proportional response. In Moscow, news of the failed strike spread quickly within defense circles. The Kremlin's expectation of a symbolic victory had backfired. The U.S. base had survived with minimal damage, and Russian satellite images now showed American aircraft taking off from multiple NATO bases. For the soldiers at Falcon Point, silence slowly replaced chaos. The flames were under control, the radar screen cleared of red, and exhaustion filled the air. Yet everyone knew. This wasn't over. In just 15 minutes, 12 missiles had turned a quiet night into a global incident. And as dawn approached, the next phase of the confrontation was already in motion, a response that would shake Moscow to its core. The missile attack on Falcon Point became a textbook case in modern warfare analysis. Defense experts later broke down every second of the confrontation to understand how 12 advanced Russian missiles were launched, and how the United States stopped almost all of them. According to initial assessments, Russia used a mixed barrage strategy: 4 Caliber cruise missiles, 4 Iskander-M short-range ballistic missiles, and 4 Zircon hypersonic missiles. Each weapon served a different role. The Calibers were designed for precision strikes at low altitude. The Iskanders carried heavier payloads to test structural endurance. The Zircons, the newest and fastest, were intended to overwhelm American intercept systems with sheer speed. Each missile left its silo or ship launcher within a 10-second window, ensuring near-simultaneous arrival. Their average speed varied from Mach 2.8 for the Calibers to Mach 9 for the Zircons. Traveling at 9 times the speed of sound, a Zircon could cover 1,000 kilometers in less than 8 minutes. The attack was calculated to create chaos before human operators could even react. But Falcon Point wasn't alone. The U.S. base was part of an integrated defense web linking satellite, sea, and ground-based radar systems. The Aegis combat system, stationed on nearby U.S. destroyers, acted as the brain of this network. It used real-time radar tracking, ballistic prediction algorithms, and automatic data exchange with NATO's Air Command and Control System, ACCS. In simple terms, every radar, ship, and missile defense system in the area was seeing the same picture, instantly. The Patriot PAC-3 missile batteries stationed at Falcon Point handled the first line of defense. Each Patriot interceptor had a top speed of Mach 5 and could destroy an incoming missile with a direct kinetic hit. No explosion needed. Out of the 12 Russian missiles, the Patriots took down 5. The remaining missiles entered Phase 2 of defense, the THAAD system. THAAD, short for Terminal High Altitude Area Defense, was designed for missiles flying higher and faster. Its sensors could detect threats at altitudes up to 150 kilometers. 2 of the Iskanders and 1 Zircon were intercepted here, destroyed by impact at the edge of the atmosphere. Meanwhile, a new layer of defense proved crucial: AI-assisted drones. These unmanned aerial units, built for intercept and countermeasure tasks, had the ability to react faster than humans. Using onboard heat sensors, they tracked missile exhaust plumes and released microflares to mislead infrared seekers. Analysts later credited these drones with saving the base from at least 1 direct hit. What made the defense even more remarkable was its communication structure. The entire counteraction, from detection to interception, was coordinated in under 180 seconds. Satellite data from NORAD flowed directly into Falcon Point's command center, while NATO command verified targets. It was a flawless synchronization of human discipline and machine intelligence. Cyber warfare also played a quiet but vital role. During the attack, Russia attempted to jam U.S. radar frequencies and inject false signals to confuse tracking. But U.S. cyber defense units had already anticipated this. A backup protocol called GhostNet activated automatically, isolating the radar network from external interference. The attempt failed completely, leaving Russian systems blind to how many missiles actually hit their mark. In Washington, analysts quickly identified the launch coordinates: a Russian coastal installation in the Kaliningrad region. Within 10 minutes of the attack, American satellites had confirmed the location and movement of launch vehicles. This information was relayed to NATO's Rapid Response Command in Brussels, where air patrols were scrambled to monitor the Baltic region. Experts called the defense of Falcon Point a strategic miracle. Out of 12 missiles, 11 destroyed, a 91% intercept success rate. For comparison, the global average for missile defense systems under real attack conditions rarely exceeds 60%. The data revealed a turning point in warfare. Technology had closed the gap between attack and defense. In previous decades, an incoming missile strike almost guaranteed destruction. Now, with layered radar, autonomous drones, and instant AI coordination, survival was not just possible, it was expected. By sunrise, the Pentagon had a complete breakdown of the event: trajectory logs, response times, and intercepted communication signals. Everything pointed to one fact: the Russian strike had failed to intimidate. Instead, It had exposed their weakness. But for the United States, defense was only the first chapter. The next move would not be to endure, it would be to respond. And that response, when it came, would shake Moscow's confidence in ways far deeper than explosions or fire. By dawn, the world knew what had happened. Satellite images confirmed multiple missile launches from Russian territory. News networks in the US, the UK, and Europe broke into emergency broadcasts. Russia fires 12 missiles at US base in Europe, flashed across every major screen. The Pentagon's response came quickly and decisively. At 05:30 hours, the President of the United States authorized Operation Silent Echo, a measured strategic retaliation. It wasn't about destruction. It was about sending a message. Within minutes, U.S. Cyber Command initiated a precision cyber strike on Russian defense networks. Power grids around key Russian naval installations went dark. Satellite communication links in the Barents Sea began to fail. Russian radar stations showed false positives, detecting ghost aircraft that didn't exist. Simultaneously, U.S. reconnaissance drones were deployed over the Baltic, accompanied by stealth fighters operating under NATO control. Their mission was simple: demonstrate presence without crossing into Russian airspace. It was deterrence at its most sophisticated. Strength without escalation. In Moscow, confusion spread through military command centers. Reports poured in of lost data connections and radar interference. Russian media remained silent for hours, trying to control public reaction. Inside the Kremlin, senior generals briefed the president that their missile strike had failed. Not only had the U.S. base survived, but its counter-response had also crippled parts of Russia's digital defense network without firing a single bullet. By 09 SAC, the United Nations called for an emergency meeting. Both U.S. and Russian ambassadors arrived under intense media attention. The American representative described the strike as an unprovoked act of aggression, while Russia called it a defensive test misinterpreted by NATO. Behind closed doors, however, diplomatic channels buzzed with urgency. Both sides knew that one wrong step could trigger open war. In the hours that followed, NATO increased its alert status to DEFCON 3, a readiness level last reached decades earlier. Allied aircraft patrolled the skies over Eastern Europe, while warships repositioned in the North Atlantic. The United States made it clear: any further provocation would result in a direct military response. The world held its breath. But Russia did not fire again. Their retaliation had failed to break U.S. defenses, and the silent counterattack from America had proved just how far technological warfare had advanced. The message was delivered clearly, and Moscow understood it. By nightfall, Falcon Point Base had restored full operations. Engineers repaired damaged systems, and soldiers stood in quiet reflection. They had survived one of the most precise and dangerous missile attacks ever launched against a U.S. installation. No one celebrated. Everyone understood what could have been. In Washington, defense analysts summed it up best: 12 missiles, 11 destroyed, 1 impact, 0 casualties, and a message that echoed louder than any explosion. The U.S. had proven that defense alone could be a weapon, and that its response didn't need fire to burn. In the quiet hours after the smoke cleared, the soldiers at Falcon Point finally stepped outside. The first light of dawn stretched across the horizon, painting the scorched ground in pale gold. The fire was out. The alarms were silent. Only the hum of the radar dish remained, turning steadily toward the rising sun. For many, it was the first breath of calm in hours. They had faced 12 missiles launched with precision and intent. They had felt the ground shake beneath them and watched the night sky turn into a battlefield. Yet, they were still standing. The flag still flew over the command tower. The base still functioned. The defense had held. Across the world, people realized how close the planet had come to disaster. In just 6 minutes, 2 nuclear powers had brushed the edge of open conflict. Defense experts called it the 6-minute standoff. News anchors described it as the moment war almost began. But those who were there knew the truth. It wasn't luck that saved them. It was preparation, discipline, and technology that worked exactly as it was designed to. In Moscow, silence replaced confidence. What was meant to intimidate had exposed vulnerability. Russia had seen that U.S. defense was not just about power, it was about precision. The world's most advanced strike had been stopped not by fear, but by focus. For Washington, the message was equally clear. Deterrence had worked, but it came at a price. The constant reminder that peace depends on vigilance. Every radar pulse, every coded signal, every watchful satellite played its part in keeping balance between nations armed to the teeth. In the final Pentagon report, one line stood out. Conflict was avoided not by chance but by control. That became the quiet legacy of Falcon Point. A lesson written in fire, data, and discipline. As the sun rose fully over the horizon, the base stood ready once more. The soldiers returned to their posts. The systems restarted, and the world turned, still fragile, still tense, but still intact. 12 missiles had crossed the sky that night. 11 were stopped. 1 struck ground. And one retaliation reminded Moscow, America's resolve can't be broken in minutes. It's built to last.